for a while, I've been wanting to do something like a hair party, you know? And I could definitely say that because of Elevate, that's one of they gave me the vision, and I always give them credit because that's where the vibe grew from. Was I took what he was doing, like the inspiration of like doing hair on stage, you know. But then I just wanted to like not just invite like hairdressers, you know. So I wanted to invite artists too. So it started with like, hey, let's do a hair jam, you know, because they weren't coming because they were going to every city, so it wasn't like they were in the city all the time. So you would have to wait, you know, unless you want to travel. And so I was like, man, let's do a hair jam, you know. And so then we're like, man, we could do it because I already knew a lot of the people. You know, I had good friends in the industry, and I knew a lot of the hairdressers here. So I was like, and so we started thinking the names, you know, and I was like, and I always used to say, man, we vibe different, vibe, you know, we vibe different. It's a vibe. So then I was like, so like, vibe. And I was like, the vibe. So then it was like, instead of TAG, because we also had to figure out on social media was taken, you know. So then I was like, so then we switched it all up, and I was like, it was THA, so like So when you say it, you have to say, you know, it's more suave, you know, like the vibe. So wherever it was like VIIB, so it's like it's spelled different, the vibe, but then it's also like we vibe different, you know. So that's where vibe different came from. So it's like a double conantra or whatever they call it, you know. So then what it was just like it was just gonna be like hair, and then I was like, well, let me get a makeup artist to you. Well, I think one person brought a makeup artist with him the first one, and but I started inviting artists to do like painting live on canvas, body painters, and so the first one we had was like right before COVID, and it went amazing. Like we had got a venue and just promoted it ourselves. Where so what I just got my friends to shoot it out on their stories, you know, where get all your friends shoot out on their stories, get everybody that you have on there, shoot it out on their stories. My theory was like, hey, if you get 20 people to do the show and everybody invites two people, you're at least gonna have, you know, enough people come. But you know, the more people you have, the more. But my thing was like, I didn't want to limit the amount of people that wanted to do it, you know. So I try to shoot it out to as many local hairdressers, barbers, you know, that wanted to do it. And at first, certain people were like, "Well, I've never heard of it," you know. So you would have some of the bigger names like, "Well, I've never heard of it, so I don't know if I want to," you know. So, but I was like, "That's all good. Just come to it." And when you come to it, put it on your stories. So then from there, we had our first event right before COVID, and I just remember it was had an amazing turnout. I think we had like 350 people come to it. It was like awesome show, and we're like so pumped up, and like literally like we were thinking about like when's the next one, and then COVID hit. Like we're like, what's this COVID? You know, lockdown happened, and then from there, that's actually where my clothing brand came up. I was sitting at home and you didn't have nothing to do. So I started cleaning out my closet, you know, and just, I think I had a jacket that you know, when you have one of your denim jackets and like, it was from a couple years ago, but you don't even, like, you don't wear it because you don't like how it's, or whatever. And so I was like, I started messing it. I think I made it into a vest or something. And then I had worn it and somebody like, oh, where'd you get that? And I was like, because I always say like, there's no guy clothing stores. I mean, there is, but very minimal. Because if you think about it, if you go to the mall, you might go to 3 stores to go shop for yourself. You know, maybe 4. There's more than that, but like me, if I go to the mall, I might go like I said, 2 to 4 stores to find like what I like, because I know the other stores are gonna like I'm not gonna like the style they have, you know, whatever. So I always like, man, if there's a guy boutique, it would kill, you know, because there's hardly any guy clothing. So then that's where I was like, the clothing idea came, and I just started like making stuff for myself, and people were like, you know, complimenting on it. So then that's where I started making like custom jackets, and I just started like posting them, and then people were like started ordering them. So I started making just like pre-order sales, like just custom denim jackets, and And what happened was, it's funny because it was at an elevator. It all leads back to elevator, I guess. The, so the pandemic happened, right? And everybody's trying to like figure out what's life, what the norm now is, and because so then I think it's trying to think when it was that we tried to do an event and it turned out good, but you're so used to what happened the first one and the expectations that I just wasn't. It like didn't fulfill me, but what it was, it just. I think is when like the vaccines, like the second around the time. I don't even know what time it was. Like there, people were waiting for like the second vaccine or whatever, right? So there was hairdressers that weren't sure about going anywhere, and there was already people that weren't sure about doing anything. Especially at a venue, a club, or what I'm saying. And but it was still like where stuff was open already, but people weren't sure. It's like because people are it was the vaccines were already out, but people were still waiting for the second one. So everything I just remember everything leading to that one was like it was just like a weird energy because certain people couldn't make it and then cancel at the last minute and then I just remember it like raining for like 2 weeks, a week straight. And I don't know if you know anything about Houston, but when it rains for a while and then it might stop. And I always said we have like bipolar weather. Like it might have, we could go to like I could go to work at in the day and it'd be like sunny, and then at night it might be cold, or vice versa. And so I just remember it was raining, and the day of the show, it was like off and on, and I just remember I was like, "Rain gods, please, please stop the rain." And 2 hours before going there, like it had stopped, but it still affected our outcome, because certain people were like didn't know if it was gonna rain, and so anyway, so we still had I think like 150 people come, which is still good, but it just when you're like had the vision and so I think for a while I was like, man, I'm not gonna do a show for a while. Like I was like, I'm gonna wait. And until like I think it was like a year and a half had passed, or just recently, maybe 2 years. For a while, I've been wanting to do something like a hair party. And I could definitely say that because of Elevate, that's one of they gave me the vision, and I always give them credit because that's where the vibe grew from. Was I took what he was doing, like the inspiration of like doing hair on stage. But then I just wanted to like not just invite like hairdressers. So I wanted to invite artists too. So it started with like, hey, let's do a hair jam, because they weren't coming because they were going to every city, so it wasn't like they were in the city all the time. So you would have to wait, unless you want to travel. And so I was like, man, let's do a hair jam. And so then we're like, man, we could do it because I already knew a lot of the people. I had good friends in the industry, and I knew a lot of the hairdressers here. So I was like, and so we started thinking the names, and I was like, and I always used to say, man, we vibe different, we vibe different. It's a vibe. So then I was like, so like, vibe. And I was like, the vibe. So then it was like, instead of TAG, because we also had to figure out on social media was taken. So then I was like, so then we switched it all up, and I was like, it was THA, so like the. So when you say it, you have to say, it's more suave, like the vibe. So wherever it was like VIIB, so it's like it's spelled different, the vibe, but then it's also like we vibe different. So that's where vibe different came from. So it's like a double conundrum, whatever they call it. So then what it was just like it was just gonna be like hair, and then I was like, well, let me get a makeup artist to you. Well, I think one person brought a makeup artist with them, the first one. And but I started inviting artists to do like painting live on canvas, body painters. And so the first one we had was like right before COVID, and it went amazing. Like we had got a venue and just promoted it ourselves where so what I just got my friends to shoot it out on their stories, where get all your friends, shoot out on their stories, get everybody that you have on there, shoot it out on their stories. My theory was like, hey, if you get 20 people to do the show and everybody invites 2 people, you're at least gonna have, enough people come. but the more people you have, the more. But my thing was like, I didn't want to limit the amount of people that wanted to do it, So I try to shoot it out to as many local hairdressers, barbers, that wanted to do it. And at first, certain people were like, "Well, I've never heard of it," So you would have some of the bigger names like, "Well, I've never heard of it, so I don't know if I want to," So, but I was like, "That's all good. Just come to it." And when you come to it, put it on your stories. So then from there, we had our first event right before COVID, and I just remember it had an amazing turnout. I think we had like 350 people come to it. It was like awesome show, and we're like so pumped up, and like literally like we were thinking about like when's the next one, and then COVID hit. Like we're like, what's this COVID? Lockdown happened, and then from there, that's actually where my clothing brand came up. But people started asking like, "Hey, when are you gonna do another show?" People like, so when people started asking like, "Hey, when am I gonna do another event?" That's when I started planning another one, and I started looking for places, and I could definitely see the differences because that one we had is then we had like 400 plus people show up, and I had close to 40 hairstylists, barber, makeup artists. So what it is, I'll find a club that's a big size open space, and if they don't have a stage, I'm actually blessed because I have a client. They have a church, and he had like mobile stage, right? And I remember the first show I was gonna do, they didn't have a stage, and you don't really need one, but it makes it look like an event, a show, because your artist up here, and like so people were able to see. And I remember I reached out to try to figure out how to make one or whatever, and he luckily was like, "Well, we have these mobile stations." And I was like, "Man, if you want to bring it up," and actually, I'm so blessed because he actually brings it on his own time. They set it up for me, and I'll always ask him like, "What do you need?" And he's like, "Nah, man, it's all good." Yeah, that's just a blessing, because just to rent a stage and all that, and like he sends his people to set it up. So every time I have a show, I'm like, "Hey, David," I have a show. So yeah, I'll bring the stage with me. So the first one I think we set up was like 8 by 10, so it could fit like 3 or 4 people. But now I'm not, and even the people that come, they're like, "Man, you can see the evolution." But now we're setting up the stages like 20 by 12, and having it fits like 6, 7 with the people with their models, and even somebody with the photographer. So we invite photographers, and so what I'll do is I'll set up a stage, and then I'll set up another area where all the artists and the body painters and all that are also doing live. And with them, all the artists, I always tell them like, all your work, that if you have any work that's done, bring it, set it up, sell it. I don't charge a setup fee, and I don't, whatever they sell, they keep 100%. Because my thing is they're bringing their stuff. They're working out of their own time, and everybody does it like volunteers to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because the show's for free. We don't charge for the show, so we like to put on a good show. It's more to like show what our city has to, the art that our city has to. Because some people, it's funny because sometimes there'll be like two people that I think might know each other that are in the industry, and when they get there, they don't know each other, and they actually meet there. So it actually even builds connection where people actually start doing stuff besides this, like collabing and doing other stuff. So it's cool to see how it's like a big network, and it goes on there. And I always try to switch it up. However it starts, I always try to put a little surprise. Like the previous show, I had somebody playing the acoustic guitar to start the show, and that's how people thought they were just going to jam out. But instead, me and one of my friends, David Lowry, we went up there and started. Once he started singing and playing, we started cutting his hair live while he's jamming on the guitar, And people were like, "What's going on?" Because they thought he was going to be jamming out. And then this last time, I had one of my other clients. She's an amazing singer, and one of my other friends, he's a talented musician, Trey Willis, and Ellen. But I had him come, and he played the guitar while she sang, and I had one of my friends, one of the artists that was gonna do the show also. Her name's Kiana Prime Hair Beauty on Instagram, but I had her do a hairstyle watch the girl sing, you know. So I always try to switch it up on the way we start the show, just to kind of start it with like I always say, if to give people the idea, like if the show started like this, the rest of it can't be boring, you know. And so from there now, I'm like I said, I went to Elevate Hair, and I was trying to because we were gonna do another show, and I was trying to already promoting it, and I already had started kind of like doing jackets for myself and custom jackets for people here and there. And I went to Elevate, and I was like, man, I'm gonna wear one of my jackets to also like promote my stuff, you know, because I was gonna cut hair, model hair on stage. Well, I had already done my model, and I don't know if y'all should all follow him, Christopher Benson. On,
Yeah.
well, he was. I don't even know if he was supposed to be there, but there was another show. I think it was an Invada show that was in town that same day of Elevate earlier that day. So I think they were in town for that. And so I had already did my model, had got off stage. But a lot of times I'll go back on stage and do a lot of video content. And so while he was cutting, I was making the video, and I had a jacket on, and so he had came off stage and whatever, and we were talking because we knew each other from social media, because his works like he's won like Naha like
Yeah, he's got
5
like the
times.
most. He's got like the most
Yeah, so
awards
like
of any
he's won like
hairdresser.
all these crazy awards and amazing art, like all these crazy awards, like stuff that like Naha. If y'all don't know what Naha is, like y'all should check it out. But
Big deal.
like it's like the Oscars or Grammys in our industry, you know, because
Yeah.
it like you gotta submit like professional photography, like images, and it's not just your pictures, like the model, how they looked, and the hair and makeup, and lighting, and so I was always like I knew about Naha for the longest time, so I would follow him. But so when he was there, I was talking to him, and I guess he had seen my jacket, and that's how it's funny. That's how we connected because he was like, "Man, where'd you get that jacket?" And I was like, "Oh, I make them, you know, I make." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Man, I wish I would have ran into you like earlier because I have." And premiere was about to happen like in Chicago, like 2 weeks after that. He's like, "Man, I wish I would because I would have sent you some stuff so I could wear it." I was like, "Well, shoot, send it to me, you know." And so he sent me some stuff. I had made it for him, and I guess from there he actually went and looked at my page more, and you know, and so he's like, "Hey, if you want to make some stuff and bring it out here for the and come work with my team and meet him." And so that's when I went to work with him and his team at Premiere last summer. And so the cool thing is, like, while I was there, hey, I'm gonna take the advantage of the chance, you know. So I had made him another jacket, you know, but because I didn't get to go to Chicago because it was like I think when he asked me, it was like a week or something, and it was like, "Oh, it's too soon." So then he had worn some of the jackets that I had, so his team had seen it. So then when I went back over there, because he's like, "Well, there's a one in Long Beach coming," so I went to that one, and I had took him another jacket, you know, and his team was like, "Man," and that's how like more people started seeing my clothing, you know, and I I had to where I had took like some custom jackets just for myself, and I when I was walking through the convention because the premiere shows, as you know, like the big shows, but people kept stopping me and like asking me about where I got them, you know, and even because Christopher, like, he had seen me because I don't know was it for that show, but it was either for that one or the next one. But he had trying to think, he had asked me to make some jackets for his notes for the next show, but for the next show, but he saw like I think they all saw how like people were asking me about the jackets, you know, and so we had already connected on that. So it kind of like made it clear, like, all right, you know, I'm on the right path as far as like this custom. Because, you know, when you started something, you do have like that, like, I'm going to put money into this, because a lot of people are starting stuff, you know, and it's just like you gotta have a certain like first, whatever you're doing, you can never think of like anybody as competition, you know. And it's not like you're like me. I don't ever see nobody like so. If somebody else is having an event, I'm not seeing them as competition because I have my own thing going on. So the people that are gonna follow you is your group, you know. And I'm always switch up certain things so you could. So I'm never in competition with nobody, you know. So even with the clothes, like I was like, man, I know I'm on the right path just because random people kept stopping, you know. And so from there, and it wasn't just like hairdressers; it was like even the security people. So it was just like, all right. So from there, when I was going to the next show, he had he I had made some clothes for this because for this photo shoot that we were gonna do, like this big photo shoot. And so I went to premiere. The first one was Long Beach, and the second one was Orlando. No, I think Orlando, then Long Beach. Well, at the Long Beach, like I had this other jacket, and like all these people kept like asking me about. So I was like, all right. That's when it was like it made me feel better because I still had doubts. You know, like am I just wasting my time? And you know when you're focused, but you're like, all right. But I just saw it like I saw it like God kept putting stuff in my like he, like I wore a jacket to Elevate, and that's where I connected with Christopher Benson, and that's where like he actually from there we connected to where he was helping me promote my clothing brand, and so he took me out there to help with hair, but also to help me promote my clothing brand by using his connections, you know. So even like when we were walking, we'd be talking to people, and he'd be like, so it was that was the thing, like I was seeing people putting in my, you know, when you need certain, like it don't matter how good you are at something if you don't have a connection to put you at the right, you know what I'm saying? So from there, like uh, I started kind of building more people like interested, you know, and so from there I started getting more like just custom orders. So instead of like making a page, I was just making orders for people, you know. And so the cool thing about that, I was able to kind of promote while I was building, and then I was using my industry to help promote because how many people are in our industry, you know? And
Yeah.
so it was almost like I was doing events to promote our events and promote other people, you know, but also that also helped me promote my clothing brand. So now like the last event I had, I put my clothing on the models on stage, you know, and then we were
Nice.
just so now like I'll set up live like photo shoots and do like live photo shoots. And so the cool thing is like seeing two brands build together. Well, from there, Wes had joined Chi, and he was working with Farouk and Chi. Well, Josh also he's been a hairdresser longer than we have, and he used to work at the salon that I worked at like way before I did. Well, his stepdad, I don't know if it was his stepdad then, but his stepdad at some point is Farouk, you know, the owner of Farouk.
Yeah.
And and so he worked for Farouk for a long time. So now uh, this was years. So now Wes got with the company because they're rebranding, you know. So now Chi Farouk is rebranding the company to because you know they've been around for so long. They own BioSilk, so they're still a successful company. But you know, like every company, uh, if you're not like, you always gotta stick with the younger people to keep promoting your brand. You know, and I think their major people that was using theirs older hairstyles. You know, and so even with like Matrix and all that, like how they rebranded a couple years ago, and now they're like uh, back in the game where people are irrelevant. Not that they're not successful, but the company just wasn't like Matrix was known as old school, you know, and like but like Chi, if you think about it, like they were one of the first companies that I know of that had like the first iron that went global. You know, everybody used it. the cheap flat iron. Like who didn't know that was the first iron that I knew that people use, the cheap flat iron. And so Wes got with him, and then Josh got back within the company, and so they're kind of like him and Paul Mago, and Sarah Pink. They started like rebrand to where they repackage certain products and then bring it out. But they also have the LG Chi Color Master, which is a pretty amazing thing. So they partner up with LG, which is the electric company, that make phones and all that. But so the cool thing about Chi is they make everything in house. And the other cool thing is they're from Houston, and I'm a big Houston, representative of my hometown city. I love other cities, but I'm born and raised here, and I represent Houston to the max. And the cool thing is like you start learning about Chi, which I've known forever, but never really they were just like old school at the time, but they've been around forever. But some people don't even know that they own other stuff within that company. So now, because of their rebranding, so they started holding like these. They started doing these invitations where they were getting hairdressers from all over to come to join the team because they were like starting a whole new thing, and so they're rebranding and coming out with new stuff and starting a whole new education team. And so when I went to the company, to that invitation, it was kind of cool to learn a lot more about it because they have a huge factory, and you learn from the chemistry of the product to like the bottles that the product comes in to the cardboard boxes that they ship them, like all that is in house, And I mean, the other crazy thing is like Farouk, he was a hairstylist for years and years, but I think he built an allergy to the ammonia and color, and so that's why he had to stop doing. But then he went and made his own company, and he actually has like 36 patents, like all over the world, like 36 patents. And my thing is like, who else would know about what a hairdresser needs more than a hairdresser, But that's a company that's been successful. But so when I went there, it was like cool to see how everything was done in-house and to learn more about the actual company, like the history of it and where it's going. And so now I'm like joining with them also. And so they have like the LG Chi Color Master. And the cool thing about that is like the color dispenser. So the amazing thing is like, instead of having like all the, like if you have a color line, you have like hundreds of boxes, Well, it all comes in like 12 containers, but with those 12, they make I think over like millions of formulas because it's almost like if you went to Home Depot and you customize everything. So like you put what levels you want and then the pigment you want, or it also has like formulas already that you can use. So then when I started learning a lot more about it, like and then I had seen their blow dryer, and every time I kept, because they had it there and I kept seeing people use it, I was like, man, that looks like a toy. Like it almost looks like a toy, like you want to play with. So I got one, and the thing, like, it works amazing, but my clients are always asking about it. But just from seeing like where they're going, it got me more interested, So from there, the more I learned from there, like it gave me more, because I've been wanting to like join a company, but like I'm at the point where like if I join something, and it's something that I believe in and that I want to grow with, for the long term. But what they were saying, all right, so sometimes when you walk in places, you'll feel egos right away, right? So you might walk in certain groups that there'll be a lot of badass people, and you'll feel egos, you know. And I don't fit in those type of groups, you know. And so when you walk in groups and there's no egos, like when I went to work with Christopher Benson's team, you had about 20 artists that are all like his whole team is, because he has a team with that some people work with different brands, you know. So it's not like he's working with like a certain brand and you have to be part of that brand to work in his team. Like, so the cool thing about with his team is I'm still working with his team, but I'm able to represent Chi, you know. So I'm able to work with his team to still represent Chi. So that was the cool thing. But when I went and worked with his team, you know, there's gonna be like people like in the industry that you look up to. Like, so DJ Muldoon, he was working with his team at that time. Well, DJ Muldoon, he's one of my mentors, and like the first time I saw him was at Paul Mitchell's signature gathering. It was like 2002 or something like that. And I always tell people he's like a hair encyclopedia. Like, he can break down hair, like, but he breaks it down to a simple form, you know. But when you see him cut, it's like magic, you know. Like, you know, when you see somebody cutting, you just like intrigued, and I always tell people, don't be afraid to tell your mentors that you're mentors. You know what I mean? Everybody needs mentors, and so I've even told, like, man, and but it so like he has people in the group that would have egos when you walk in there, you know. But when you walk in a room and you see these people, like, I mean, people that have been in the industry for a long time, you know, that are award-winning people, and everybody's willing to help everybody. Like, hey, if you need help, it's not like, hey, I'm somebody. Everybody sees, like, everybody's skilled in their own. You know what I'm saying? So I think when everybody sees that, nobody has an ego because you're not trying to fit in or trying to like make yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think when I went to Chi, I kind of felt the same thing. It's because they had an invitation and they did invite a lot of like known artists. And when you go in a room and you feel everybody's like down to earth, chill, it gives you a better like you don't mind being there, you know.
So you're
Okay.
you're working with Chris Benson, you're working with Chi, you're doing hair, you got your production company, and you got your clothing line.
Yeah. So the cool thing is with Chi, where I was getting this when I went to that thing because of Josh. So I think 2 shows before. So I always try to get sponsors for the events, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they pay for the events, right? It's like, so our sponsors have been like JRL, right? JRL, I love JRL because I've worked with JRL with their stuff, and they've sent me stuff for years, you know. So when I reach out to brands, that I've already worked with, you know. And with JRL, and then another company, ISA Pro, and they do flat irons, and then H14, H114. But so like JRL has sent me like the last time, they're like 50 combs of like different. Each comb's like $10, and then like 10 flat irons or 12 flat irons, and then the other company sent me like 12 clippers, 12 trimmers, and then the other company sent me like 10 flat irons. And well, what it is like I'll either raffle it or just give it away at the shows, you know, and it just brings more interest, you know, and it also brings more people that weren't using that product to use that product, you know. So it's also like a partnership with other brands. But so when I reached out to Josh, which is working with Chief, I was like, hey, do y'all want to, you know, but they were already doing something at the time because it was like short notice. So then from there, he had spoke to one of the main people at Chi about like doing something with my events, you know. And this was before the invitation. So when I went to the invitation, I had met Lisa, which Lisa is one of the higher ups with the events and all that, and with all the people. And so I guess he had already kind of mentioned my events, And what they were trying to do is they were trying to figure out a way to promote the company on like a local type. And so when I went to the thing, I had met her and I was talking to her, and then I guess we weren't really talking about my really the focus wasn't on the event. We were just talking, kind of having conversation, and then that came about. And then she was like, "Oh, Josh had been telling me about it," and so the next day, like, because it was 2 day training, she was like, "Hey, I was thinking about it, and I wanted to meet with you after the training and all that." So the cool thing about that, and that's why I said God started putting people in my they were they wanted to, now they want to partner up with the Vibe to where I'm educated, I'm still be educated for them, but so they want to take it on the road to promote the Chi company too. So I'm gonna be doing events, the Vibe events, but with Chi, but taking them all around to different
That's
cities.
awesome.
Okay? So from going to be an educator there, this opportunity came about to where they want to take, because they already wanted to do something that way, but they figured since mine's already going. And the cool thing, it wasn't what the conversation wasn't like, what can you do for us to be part of, it was like, we see what you already have going. We want to know what we can do to jump on board with what you already have going on and from there, kind of the conversation started. So now I think we're talking about like doing one in California, because we already have, artists that we know out there. So like even partnering up with people that already have like their own brands over there, and bring together, do bigger events. So that the cool thing about that is I ended up being able to partner up with Chi, and then also being able to partner up with Christopher Benson, because so they're helping me with my grow my events. But then with Christopher Benson, so I'm gonna go work with him at Premiere, like the 4 shows, but because he's helping me promote my clothing brand. So we're gonna put my clothing brand on. So he started, he's got the main stage, part of the main stage for, and so he's putting my clothes on the models. And then the next day we're gonna do live photo shoots with the models wearing my clothes at Premiere. Which, I mean, if anybody knows what Premiere is, and Naha and all that, like the shows and all that, but Premiere is like a huge show. Like they have like I said, 30 to 60,000 people. So, and he has a pretty big name. So to
Yeah.
put my clothing brand on the models on stage and then do a photo shoot on stage in front of all the people, that's it's humbling. It's like amazing.
Dude, that's awesome. So, well, when you want to come to DC, you should let us know. We can do some sort of collaboration with you.
Sure.
This sounds like an awesome story, and I think it's a good place to wrap it up. And I really want to say thanks for coming on the show today.
No, appreciate you for having me, man. It's definitely great to meet you, man.
And I definitely look forward to seeing you at Premiere Orlando. We'll be there. We're planning on being there as well, and we'll definitely have to get together in real life. And I can't wait to see all the models wearing all your clothes. That's super exciting, man. You went from not knowing what you want to do to bringing together some of the biggest names in the industry, and now you're going on the road. That's super awesome. Very congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, if I give any word of advice, is like never stop learning. Like whether you're in the industry for a day or 10, 20, 30 years, it's like when you stop learning and growing, it's like stagnant water. Stagnant water stinks. You know what I'm saying? You'll stop loving what you're doing. So, and then also find mentors. Definitely find mentors, and like it doesn't even have to be in your industry. It could be anywhere, but definitely find mentors that like keep you focused and keep you like to a road to where you want to be. So whatever you want to do, man, definitely find mentors to help you. Doesn't even have to give you word of advice. It just, you might just see what they're doing and getting pointers off of it. But definitely, sometimes you can reach out to people, and because sometimes people won't reach out to other people because they think then people aren't going to reach back or vice versa. But a lot of times you reach out to people, they reach out right back, and and that's how you build relationships. Just like kind of like me and you, we didn't know each other, but just from social media, we you know we connected, and now like it's cool that in Premiere we'll get to meet each other in person, and that's how like our industry is just full of networking and just getting to meet people and just growing, and just like from that you'll be able to like go different places and already know somebody. And now you could go by yourself to a hair show, already know people and not feel alone. So always find mentors, never stop learning, and keep growing, and keep creating. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And I'll look forward to seeing you, and we'll get you back on the show again in the future, hopefully.
sure, appreciate it. Thank you, man. You have a good day. Stay blessed. Have a good one.
You too. All right. See ya.
Have a good one.